Hey, welcome back to our Achievement Hunter series, aimed at ramming through the Alterac Valley gameplay achievements with quick, efficient, and occasionally wacky decks. Today, we're marshaling all our resources to tackle the neutral achievements. Let's get into it. This should be interesting. The number of achievements we're looking to hunt down this time is nearly abominable. So our engineers split this guide into three main groups. First, we'll be looking at achievements which will most likely require quite a few games with a targeted deck to complete the total needed for the achievement. Second, we'll tackle the one and done achievements. And third, we'll look at achievements which you've likely completed over the course of the expansion while just playing or tackling other achievements. But we're introducing a targeted deck or two in case you need one to finish them off. If you're in a frantic rush to take down a specific achievement, there are timestamps for each achievement and deck codes for each deck mentioned in the description below in case you'd like to skip to one you're looking for. Now, let's unleash our bounty hunters on these achievements. First up, let's dive into a Gangster's Paradise, where we have to destroy 15 minions with Gangster's Gank effect. The reason both decks we're highlighting for this one are in Hunter is thanks to Ramming Mount making Gangster a bigger body and immune while attacking. And if you're able to get a Robes of Protection down after Ramming Mount, there's a good chance opponents will have a rough time removing Gangster before she's able to gank quite a few enemy minions. You could include Ace Hunter Kreen to serve a similar role as Ramming Mount, but we wanted an improved chance of drawing Gangster and the Robes from Drekthar, so we didn't include him. In Wild, this Mastering Gank Tracking Hunter is still only running a few minions, but this time Stitch Tracker joins the deck as a way to play out a couple more Gangsters per game. Master's Call improves the consistency of finding the Stitch Trackers, or Gangsters, and Face Stalker helps thin the deck so that we can find the cards we're looking for a little faster. A few good games against a small minion-oriented deck with one of these should lead you to a Gangster's Paradise quite quickly. If you joined the OwlTK Warlock bandwagon at the beginning of the expansion, you may have killed 30 enemies with Humongous Owl, just triggering the death rattle in preparation for the OTK. After a couple nerfs, that deck is much weaker than it used to be, and you're most likely only killing 1 or 2 enemies with the Humongous Owl itself. So the decks we're introducing today focus on summoning lots of owls or triggering its death rattle a bunch of times. This Humongous Aviary Hunter in Standard uses Vandar to discount the only beasts in the deck, Humongous Owl and Mountain Bear. If you don't find Vandar until you've drawn a copy or two of the Owl, holding off on playing him until you can play Dire Frenzy on a natural owl or one from Revive Pet will make your guardian animals into a, well, humongous swing turn. And Devouring Swarm is just one more way to get additional owls while essentially giving your owl rush to clear an enemy or two. There aren't any additional beasts in this deck since we wanted to maintain Revive Pet's consistency of giving us owls alongside the Mountain Bears and Mountain Cubs, which buy us time to play everything out. However, this rogue deck from HS Replay in Wild doesn't even begin to limit the number of death rattles it's running. Thanks to Anka, Humongous Owl can come down a turn or two early, and Snowfall Graveyard alongside Necrium Blade, Spirit Singer Umbra, and Carnivorous Cube all open the door for quite a few extra 8 damage death rattle triggers from the Owl. With so many death rattles in the deck, Roll the Bones can fill your hand quite easily, to the point that you hope you don't burn one of your Humongous Owls when you play it. But this was a surprisingly fun discovery when looking around for ideas to knock out Humongous Owl's achievement in Wild. Have fun devouring opponents with your really big birds. We dealt with big birds a moment ago, and now it's time to deal with Flappy Birds. Even if you trigger Frantic Hippogriff's Honorable Kill effect to gain Wind Fury, you'll still need to summon a whole lot of Hippogriffs to reach 80 attacks with them. I imagine you'll notice many similarities between the standard deck we're recommending for this achievement and the deck we introduced for Humongous Owl. But since Frantic Hippogriff only costs 5 mana and it has Rush, we decided to drop Vandar so that we could include Selective Reader and Northshire Farmer alongside Dire Frenzy, allowing us to summon a massive flock of Hippogriffs each game. This deck's win rate was horrendously bad, but we knocked out the achievement in just 9 games using it. In Wild, we're suggesting a very different direction, tying Frantic Hippogriff into a much stronger deck archetype, Beast Druid. Thanks to Germination and Floop, we can get a few extra copies of Frantic Hippogriff per game, and in games which last until turn 10 or later, it's possible for Living Seed to draw and discount a Hippogriff to 2 mana, meaning Oracle of Elune can give you an extra copy as well. Yes, Frostsaber Matriarch might steal that spotlight, but this deck can certainly keep you alive long enough to draw and play Hippogriffs, and with a couple buffs, there's a good chance each Hippogriff can get several attacks in before their wings fail. Good luck overwhelming opponents with lots of Flappy Birds. These next 2 achievements center around frost spells, so if you didn't complete either of them when tackling the Shaman achievements, you may want to work on them together. This first one takes a bit longer since it only counts when the Herald of Loch Holar himself draws a frost spell. So that means you'll need to play the Herald at least enough times to have him trigger his battlecry 50 times while there are still frost spells in your deck. In Standard, there's not a way to make Herald himself repeat his battlecry or shuffle a bunch of extra copies of him into your deck. So we just made sure to include him in a deck with plenty of frost spells to guarantee progress. Since we didn't test this deck until after completing the achievements, I can't confirm, but I don't believe Bolner retriggering Herald's battlecry gives extra progress. If you can confirm one way or another, please let us know in the comments. If it does count, that'll make this go much faster. Either way, including Herald of Loch Holar in this deck is a fun way to get progress towards the achievement while drawing towards the infinite damage win condition of the deck. When starting this achievement in Wild, we initially set out to tackle it with the Brand's Baleful Herald Shaman deck, shown here, since it can knock out the Snowblind Harpy achievement at the same time. But since Shudderwalk repeating the Herald's battlecry doesn't count, we ended up switching to this Educated Brain Freeze rogue since it cycles through the deck so much faster. However, since rogues can only run Brain Freeze as frost spells, we needed Educated Elix to copy the Brain Freezes as well as any frost spells discovered by Wand Thief and Shadow Driller Hanar and shuffle them back into our deck. Thanks to Togwaggle's scheme copying Herald of Loch Holar, the additional spells from the Elix, and the more targeted minion draw engine available in this deck, we knocked out the last 25 draws in just 6 games. It was still quite a long process, but we had fun shocking opponents and making them say, "Look at those crazy Heralds of Loch Holar." The other frost spell based achievement just asks that we trigger Snowblind Harpy's battlecry effect 50 times. As repeating her effect with cards like Bolner and Shudderwalk counts, it's possible to knock this one out much faster. If you want a Shaman deck with Bolner as a faster way to do this in Standard, check out the Bolner's Frozen Herald Shaman we introduced a moment ago. For a bit of fun, we decided to mix up the classes and include a Ping Mage from HS Replay, which includes Snowblind Harpy as an additional way to buy time for a Mordresh or Magister Dawngrasp finisher. Not much more to say about this one, except to make sure you have one of your frost spells in hand when playing the Harpy in order to get progress. However, in Wild, we do end up going back to Shaman because Shudderwalk is just such an amazing way to get tons of extra progress towards this achievement. We use this Snowblind Shudder Shaman to knock out the achievement with an 80% win rate across 15 games. Thanks to Grumble and Zola alongside Serenite Chain Gang, we can usually get an extra couple Shutterwalks to play out in longer games. If you want to go infinite, you'll want to swap the Sleepbreaker to something else, as your hand will eventually fill with Wind Chills. Frostbite would give you a frost spell for Snowblind Harpy's effect, but we stuck with Sleepbreaker as the extra draw often helps us close out the game in victory while still leaving enough space for a second and occasionally a third Shutterwalk when we prioritized achievement progress. Have fun making opponents snowblind with rage at how much armor you gain with these decks. For One for All, Marshal for One, it is true that Stormpike Marshal will go to 1 mana if we took 5 or more damage on our opponent's turn, but she's not a strong enough card that we want to slot her into a bunch of decks and wait for our opponent to hit us really hard before playing her. So when looking for alternative ways to play multiple copies of her for 1 mana per game, we ended up building Quest Rogues for both Standard and Wild. In Standard, the quest we used is obvious, as there's only one option at the moment. Now, the reason we chose to use a Quest Rogue to go after lots of 1 mana Marshals is because the cards we can use to play out Marshal for One, Tinwu, Potion of Illusion, and Scab's Cutter Butter, all pair well with Quest Rogue. Prep Scab's Cutter Butter into a 1 mana Marshal and a 0 mana Potion of Illusion to get at least a 1 mana 1/1 Scabs and a 1 mana 1/1 Marshal back in hand for just 5 mana feels really good. And since the most effective measure to defeat a Quest Rogue is usually to kill them before they can stick a stealthed Spymaster Scabs to the board, there's a good chance the opponent will hit face for 5 as soon as they're able, opening the door for a natural 1 mana Marshal to come down every now and then. Battleground Battlemaster didn't make the cut as we had to make room for the Potions of Illusion, but Edwin and Smite can still win games after you've played the Marshals you've got. While the deck we're introducing for Wild is also a Quest Rogue, it's running the original Quest Rogue, the Caverns Below. Quest completion is pretty swift thanks to Bloodsail Flybooter or Ram Commander, making this a nice head start on the next achievement we'll cover. And Togwaggle's Scheme can help ensure we have plenty of Marshals to discount. If our opponent hits us for 5 or more after quest completion, Stormpike Marshal becomes a nice 1 mana 5/5 taunt to plop down. However, we still have Tinwu and Potion of Illusion to help us force the Marshal to cost 1 mana, and copies we get from Sonia's Shadow Dancer will also cost 1 mana. However, we did learn that the Potion of Illusion and Sonia copies are just 1/1 copies until bounced or shuffled, even after quest completion. So keep that in mind when considering how well the Marshals can protect you. This was a pretty fun way to revisit an old archetype while getting lots of Marshals for 1. Enjoy. If you didn't summon enough Battle Rams to complete the Mary Had a Little Ram with the Wild Quest deck we introduced for Stormpike Marshals achievement, the next couple decks might prove to be very interesting ways to summon the last few Rams you need. In Standard, we're suggesting this Iron-Spiked Rams Druid built into a Beast Druid, since Moonlit Guidance can get you an extra Ram Commander, Oracle of Elune can summon additional Battle Rams, and Mark of the Spikeshell can get you extra copies of Ram Commander or the Rams when Ironbark is used to give them taunt. Though an extra Frostsaber Matriarch from the Mark of the Spikeshell may just prove more enticing. Still, you can get pretty swift progress towards the achievement with this deck if you don't want to just toss the Ram Commander into a buff Paladin. But is there any better way to get value from Battle Rams than slinging hammers from multiple ETCs in Wild Warrior? This ETC's Ram Bangers has multiple ways of setting up lethal with ETC and Bloodsworn Mercenary, thanks to the Front. One of the most fun ways, which uses a fair number of Battle Rams, is to start with To the Front, so all your minions only cost 1 mana, drop ETC, damage him with Inner Rage, drop Bran on the board, and use Bloodsworn Mercenary to make 2 copies of ETC, and then play Ram Commander to get 4 Battle Rams in hand. Send the rams in one by one for 24 face damage, or send in 3 rams and an animated broom for a whole lot more damage. Or you could just use Bran and Ram Commanders to summon 8 battle rams as you buy time for the regular double mercenary animated broom finisher with ETC. It's not one of the strongest decks out there, but it should be a lot of fun. Best of luck merrily sending in lots of little battle rams. Next up, we're back to a card that slots very well into rogue decks. Since Frostwolf Warmaster only costs 4 mana, we have to play her at least 38 times to complete this achievement, and that's if we've discounted her to 0 mana each time. This Frostwolf Thief Rogue uses Edwin as a major draw engine with Shadow Steps, Tenwu, and Scabs as a way to play the Warmaster out quite a few times per game. Nothing too exciting, and it's a lot weaker after the nerfs, but it will get the job done relatively quickly. However, if you're looking to get tons of progress per game in a deck which can frequently drop 5 or 6 0-mana Frostwolf Warmasters onto the board on the same turn, this Warmaster's Scheme Rogue is worth giving a shot. Aggro decks rip it apart as you're not able to present much of a board until at least turn 4. But once you decide to reveal that you're a rogue, Edwin can help you tear through your deck. A Togwaggle scheme that's been charged up since the early turns on a Warmaster as a setup turn into a Shadow Stepped Edwin on turn 8 or 9 can let you flood the board with Warmasters and send a massive Edwin at the opponent with Mr. Smite's help. Good luck setting up your harder, stronger, better board with lots of Warmasters. Now, there are a ton of fun ways to summon a whole lot of Korax. Of course, in order to summon him 50 times, you will need a copy of him. Luckily, if you got the Tavern Pass, you'll have a diamond copy of him. If you haven't managed to get Korak, I'm fairly certain it's possible to find him in duels and arena buckets. So if you do stumble across him, a number of Death Rattle synergies and a long successful run might help you knock this out. In Standard, we had a lot of fun with this Korak's Graveyard Rogue. Sketchy information will pull Korak or the Ticketmasters from the deck, and if it hits Korak, it'll go ahead and summon him once. With Forsaken Lieutenant, Counterfeit Blade, and Snowfall Graveyard, it's not too difficult to flood your side of the board with Koraks. It may seem a bit counterintuitive, but if you have a Snowfall Graveyard out there, sometimes turning your Coerce or Malevolent Strike, which is often 0 mana thanks to Ticketmaster, on Korak might be the right play to get additional copies of him to overwhelm the opponent. We've got a gameplay highlight with the deck linked in the description in case you'd like to see the deck in action. Of course, Xyrella is also an amazing way to summon lots of Koraks at once, which is exactly why our wild deck runs her alongside a bunch of Resurrect and Copy cards. This Korak the Devout Priest has only 2 minions, Spirit Singer Umbra and Korak, so the insights can help pull them from the deck very consistently. If you don't have Umbra or really want to ensure the insights hit Korak, you could drop her for a second Hysteria, a Palm Reading, or even an Eternal Servitude. It shouldn't take much time at all to summon a full army of the Everliving with either of these decks. Have fun. As Kobold Taskmaster gives you 2 armor scraps with each of his battle cries, you just need 30 battle cries from him, or something which will give you a fair number of extra copies of the armor scraps you played earlier in the game. When looking for an efficient way to knock this out in Standard, I realized that the armor scraps will come back from Lady Liadrin's battle cry. The scraps are definitely not the most powerful spells to get from Liadrin, but thanks to her effect, it's possible to cast 8 armor scraps per game with a deck archetype sporting a pretty impressive win rate. Also, the armor scraps on Moonfang make her even more difficult for the opponent to remove, or they give your minions a chance to survive after dropping Lord Barov onto the board. we were pleasantly surprised how much work the scraps put in this deck. Over in Wild, we initially set out to complete this with a Crazed Armor Priest, which used the armor scraps to buff a Nomerigan infantryman to high health and then swap the stats with Crazed Alchemist. But even with seances for the Taskmasters and Educated Elic for the scraps, progress was much slower than we wanted. So we ended up completing the achievement with this Armored Stone Swine Rogue, since the draw engine of the Swine Tusk Shank, alongside the other targeted card draw, helped us get to the original Taskmasters and their Togwaggle schemed copies so much faster. Now, you may be wondering why Shadow Clone is in the deck, as it's generally a terrible card. So we wanted to keep the number of minions in the deck very low so that Shroud and Swindle would draw the minions we really want. But it's not possible to get progress on this achievement without a friendly minion to accept the armor scraps, and most opponents destroy anything we play out. But a minion they give us with stealth serves as a pretty reliable target. It's a questionable inclusion, which you could swap out for a couple of your own stealth minions, but that's the wacky logic we used for running it. The deck does have a burst finisher built in with Stone Tusk Boar, the scraps, and Crazed Alchemist, but as our focus was on getting and playing lots of scraps, the deck had an astounding 0% win rate across 5 games. So only use this deck if you're willing to tank your rank for a few games. But once you're done, you won't have to Snivvle no more. Next up, we've got the last of the narrowly targeted cumulative achievements, 1600 Dust Bounty. To complete this one, you could just toss Grimtotem Bounty Hunter in a number of decks and play him out when the opponent has a legendary minion in play. If you want to complete this in Standard, that's probably the strategy to go with, as there's not a cheap way to give your opponent a legendary to kill with Bounty Hunter for guaranteed progress. If you're desperate, Silas Darkmoon could donate himself to be sacrificed for a single bounty per game in just about any deck able to make it to 10 mana. However, in Wild, we can give our opponent cheap legendaries with Treachery so that we can immediately kill them with Bounty Hunters. With 4 cheap legendaries, including Nat Pagal to be used as increased card draw in a pinch, tons of other draw, and Ruined Mithril Rod to potentially discount a legendary, Treachery, or Bounty Hunter, it shouldn't take long at all to complete this one using this Treacherous Bounty Warlock. We knocked this achievement out from 0 progress to 20 across just 12 games. The win rate was dismal, but it was quick, and we didn't have to drag other decks down by including an awkward tech card. Best of luck making quick work of this 1600 Dust Bounty. Now, on to the one and done achievements. First up, we've got the achievement to dump Ivus the Forest Lord onto board with a bunch of mana as fertilizer. As Ivus has just 3 keywords as options, and then he's guaranteed to gain +2/+2 for every other mana, any deck dropping him with 10 full mana crystals will complete this with a 13/13 Ivus, though hand buffs might let you knock this out a turn or 2 earlier. If you don't have Ivus, it should be possible to discover him in Arena and Duels buckets, and then just play him once you get to 10 mana. So any deck running Ivus will work for this, but the decks we're introducing are both in Druid thanks to mana ramp options or extra value possible. The standard deck we're recommending is this Ivus's Belly Ramp Druid from Tice. Guff and Overgrowth can get you to 10 mana quickly, and you can make an absolutely monstrous Ivus when you get closer to 20 mana. Also, if you're lucky, the Abominable Lieutenant could possibly eat an 8/8 or larger minion to knock out the next achievement too. In Wild, while still using a Druid deck, this time the deck isn't running Mana Ramp. Rather, it's running a strong Beast Druid package to keep you alive until turn 10, And if you've managed to stick an Oracle of Elune to the board the turn before, you'll get 2 13/13 Taunt Rush Divine Shield Ibises to close out the game in victory to celebrate your achievement complete. Have fun watching the trees speak for themselves by tearing opponents apart. Huh. The standard deck we're recommending for Yummy in My Tummy looks really familiar. That's probably because it's a deck from HS Replay, which is completely identical to Tice's deck, except that it's running a second Abominable Lieutenant in place of Spammy Arcanist. Another Lieutenant increases the chances of eating a nice plump minion to make him happy and complete this achievement. However, if you want to nearly guarantee achievement completion when you play Abominable Lieutenant, you could try this Abominable Giant Warlock deck in Wild. It's running a fair amount of self-damaging card draw alongside tons of healing so that Flesh Giant will reach 0 mana quite quickly. And thanks to a discount or two on Abominable Lieutenant or Treachery from Ruined Mithril Rod, as you're racing towards a 0 mana Flesh Giant, you may be able to donate a Flesh Giant to the opponent with Treachery for Abominable Lieutenant to devour even before reaching 10 mana. Many of the healing and control tools can help clear the board to improve the chances of, or completely guarantee, that the enemy minion devoured by the Lieutenant is the 8/8 we donated to them. Good luck making Abominable Lieutenant say, "That feels yummy in my tummy." To complete, you're in Irondeep trouble. You just need to have 7 Irondeep Trogs on your side of the board during your turn. We were initially planning to do this in Paladin or Priest, thanks to Gift of Luminance making the Trogs more difficult to remove, but it proved to be much simpler than expected with an early version of one of the Hunter decks we introduced for the Bloodseeker achievement, thanks to Ramming Mount helping our Trogs keep the board clear and force our opponent to play spells. Yes, Irondeep Trog is much weaker now that it's been nerfed, but that means opponents aren't quite as desperate to avoid giving you a full board of Trogs, which might be why we were able to do this without minion copy cards as a hunter. But if you do want a deck capable of making most or all of the copies yourself, this Copy and Res Priest in Wild has quite a few ways to summon multiple Trogs onto the board at once, with a few gaining extra stats or Divine Shield, so they're more challenging to remove. It's not a strong deck, but it'll get the job done in a game or two. Best of luck making your opponent face Irondeep trouble. Getting the first stage of the Teamkill achievement is pretty easy in just about any deck running Spammy Arcanist, but triggering her effect 14 times is not something you can do in Standard unless you have insanely good luck. Yes, Yogg-Saron could summon a rush board with exactly 1 health increments after you trade to open a spot for Arcanist, or you could potentially have a board of 1 through 6 health minions. You play Tamsin's Phylactery with Scrapyard Colossus's Death Rattle, while your opponent miraculously has a 7 health minion sitting out there. But setting up those boards will require incredible tenacity and extreme luck. So instead, we really recommend heading over to Wild and using one of the combos we're introducing here. The first deck is one we introduced in the Rogue Achievement Hunting Guide for the Snowfall Graveyard achievement. It's a deck from Mark McKaysey, which swapped in Anka the Buried in place of Counterfeit Coin so that the combo turn wouldn't require as many discounts from Efficient Octobot, and you don't have to hold a backstab for the combo turn. You can play Snowfall Graveyard a turn or two before doing the combo, and then on the combo turn, play Knife Juggler, give him immune with Death Speaker, play the first copy of Cobalt Illusionist, while the second copy of Cobalt Illusionist stays in hand. If you played Anka, you will need to play Anka if you drew her, or else the combo could mess up. You're good to go. If you didn't draw Anka, Use Backstab to put the Cobalt Illusionist to 1 health. Then drop Spammy Arcanist, and she'll trigger her effect 14 times, dealing tons of damage from Knife Juggler, completing the achievement, and almost certainly killing the opponent in the process. Another wild combo which can be used to complete this is the one we used early on, nestled into this spammy Teamkill Druid. Before we discovered the deck by Mark McKazy, we highlighted this deck, which uses a combo turn of playing Necrotic Geist, giving it immune with Death Speaker, dropping Mecharoo, and then playing Spammy Arcanist for achievement complete. As mentioned in the highlight video linked in the description, this group of cards can slot into any class, but you will need double discounts on several of the cards with Emperor Thaurissan and Drakari Enchanter, or more than 10 mana to do the combo. We gave a breakdown of some options at the end of that highlight video, so I'd recommend checking it out if you do decide to use that combo. Good luck pulling off an effective team kill. While the Spammy Arcanist achievement takes quite a bit of setup to pull off, Reflecto Failure is the exact opposite. If you just run Reflecto Engineer in a deck with a few minions which have 0 attack, all you have to do is wait until you draw her and a 0 attack minion, play her and then the minion, and you're done. That's it. So any deck running Reflecto Engineer and a few 0 attack minions will do. But why not play a deck which can make good use of those 0 attack minions too? This Reflected Graveyard Zoo Warlock runs Boneweb Eggs and Nerubian Eggs, which will hatch immediately when played after Reflecto Engineer. And thanks to board buffs and Desecrated Graveyard, they aren't useless when played without Reflecto Engineer. In Wild, we went with a similar approach which can help you finish the Deliverance achievement for Priest if you haven't completed it yet. The Devilsaur Eggs and Serpent Eggs are ready to be Reflecto Engineered, but they also come back as 3/3 bodies with a bonus while hatching if you hit them with Deliverance. And Xyrella can flood the board with 5/5s and 3/4s much more easily. You should only need 1 or 2 games to pull off this achievement with either deck, so have fun using some cracked eggs to turn the Reflecto Failure into a win. Now let's move on to the final few achievements which you've likely completed along the way just by playing Alterac Valley cards. But maybe there's a little bit of progress remaining which you want to crush quickly. We'll start with King of the Hill, which requires that we have 60 objective spells last all 3 turns. Looking at the effect, mana cost, and ability of the various objective cards to help knock this out, we settled on Dunbaldar Bunker to recommend as a way to finish this off. It can come down on turn 2, it helps thin your deck so that you can find the second copy faster, and the secrets drawn can help keep you alive long enough for all 3 turns to trigger twice. Rather than attempt to reinvent Secret Hunter decks, the decks we're showcasing here are the same exact ones we suggested for the It's a Trap achievement. Since the achievement requirement is just that it lasts 3 turns, you don't technically have to draw a secret each turn with it to get progress. But why not have fun decorating a secret tree for Crossroads Gossiper to sling at the opponent? Might as well, right? And in Wild, the story is pretty much the same. Our win rate with this Feeling Trapped Hunter while knocking out the achievement was over 70% across 18 games. So you can certainly climb the ladder a bit while finishing the achievement if you play this deck. The challenge will actually be getting through more than one Dunbaldar Bunker before finishing off the opponent or making them concede. Still, with these decks, it shouldn't take long for you to prove that you're King of the Hill. Next up, we've got the achievement which, if you've opened a hero card this expansion, is most likely complete. This one really just depends on you playing with and winning 40 games with whichever hero cards you've opened. If you're coming back to Hearthstone with just a short bit of time before the new rewards track hits, and you want to finish this off quickly, both decks we're showing here use the hero cards very effectively and tout excellent win rates. This Paladin deck from HS Replay is boasting a 64% win rate at the time of script writing, and hopefully the "You Are Not Worthy" achievement will be working properly by the time this guide arrives, so you can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone using this deck. In Wild, a deck we've been playing to great success, well beyond necessary for the Xyrella achievement, is this Xyrella's Death Rally Priest. We're currently sitting at a 65% win rate with the deck across 80 games. And with Lorekeeper Polkelt to help find Xyrella as a game-winning finisher more reliably, you can fulfill the conditions of this achievement quite effectively during most games. There's a highlight video linked in the description you can check out if you'd like to see this deck in action. Best of luck taking this achievement from 0 to complete very quickly with your hero cards. Even though it's the keyword for Alterac Valley and a number of the honorable kill cards are seeing play, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if you're not quite done with Wrecking Ball, as 200 honorable kills is a lot. To finish this one off quickly, the decks we're introducing here are targeted at getting quite a few honorable kills per game rather than having a high win rate. In Standard, we're recommending this Hollow Terror Honor Warlock, which uses Hollow Abomination's Battlecry to get multiple honorable kills at once when paired with Terror Guard Escapee summoning 3 1/1s on the opponent's side of the board. The only other minion in the deck is Envoy Rustwix to provide a fun late game finisher alongside Wicked Shipment and Tamsin's Phylactery once you've gotten the honorable kills available during the game. With so few minions, and 3 of them being demons, Free Admission and the Dark Portal can pull Terror Guard Escapee and Hollow Abomination from the deck and often discount them, making it easier to play a Terror Guard or 2 into an Abomination a few turns early. And with Philosophy to copy Terror Guard, as well as Raise Dead to bring back the Terror Guards and Abominations, you can get quite a bit of progress per game, even if the opponent never leaves the door open for an honorable kill on their minions. In Wild, it was tough to find a deck which could get quite a few honorable kills per game, but then we stumbled across a fun Mulveric Thrune Druid deck by Mark McKaysey, which uses Poison Seeds as an effective way to set up multiple honorable kills with Wing Commander Mulveric and his Strike Wyverns as part of the combo to cycle through the deck quickly and play out and kill off Mechathune. Thanks to Floop's Glorious Gloop, Poison Seeds and all those honorable kills with Mulveric and his Wyverns translate into tons of mana to keep playing out cards on the combo turn. You'll want to use the first Poison Seeds to set up honorable kills with Mulveric, and save the second Poison Seeds as your final card to kill Mechathune, as it will trigger his game-winning effect even if you still have a couple minions on the board. You'll most likely get a maximum of 7 honorable kills per game, and the deck is a challenge to pilot, hence the reason we've included a link in the description to Mark's video showing the deck in action. But it's definitely a fun way to roll out the Wrecking Ball. Have fun with this one. Next up, we've got a peculiar achievement which requires that we win a game at exactly 15 health. The thing is, most players will complete this one at some point without even trying. But if you've managed to avoid winning a game at 15 health, let's look at a couple decks which can help you target winning the game at exactly 15 health. First up is this Big Bloody Essence Priest, running a big menagerie package with Vandar and N'Zoth. One of the first things you'll notice, if you're used to facing big priests in Standard, is that Light Shower Elemental is missing. That's because we don't want its death rattle messing up our carefully maintained health total. The game plan is to take damage until we reach 15 health or less, and then stabilize with a massive amount of armor gain available from Moarg Forgefiend, while using our hero power, renew, or gift of the Naru to heal ourselves to exactly 15 health. Then we just have to win the game with the tremendous pressure from all the massive minions coming from N'Zoth and the Amulets of Undying. But in Wild, we can use the original Alexstrasza to set our health to exactly 15 moments before finishing off an opponent. A fun deck which can do this quite effectively is this Congealed Mali Alex Druid by Risa HS. Celestial Alignment sets it up so that we just need one spare mana to drop Alexstrasza alongside Malagos, Germination, and Swipes or Ultimate Infestations to finish off the opponent while ensuring we win at 15 health. However you decide to go after this, best of luck congealing your health at 15 and knocking this achievement out. And finally, the last achievement for us to cover before the mini set is Battlefield Master. This is a really nice inclusion to the achievements this time, as it's possible to gain one more of the rewards track skins without having to wait until the next expansion. We don't have any deck recommendations for this one, as you just have to hit that play button a lot more in traditional Hearthstone, duels, or arena to finish it off. If you're racing to complete it before the rewards track refreshes, aggro decks such as Face Hunter are your friend, as the game will be over one way or another fairly quickly. If you're watching this during an expansion after Alterac Valley, hopefully there will be some way to complete this even if the honor system is no longer in use. But there's no way to know what Blizzard will do for that until the time comes. If you haven't already, I wish you the best of luck proving that you are a Battlefield Master. And that's a wrap. If you found this helpful, drop a like. If enough people spam the like button, this video can piggyback on the algorithm, ensuring achievement hunters looking to gank these achievements will find it without having to send out sneaky scouts. Our guide covering achievements from the mini set will likely be another humongous one, so be sure to check back or subscribe so that you won't be snowblind to future videos. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy participating in experiments live, check out our stream at twitch.tv/SSAlchemist. We currently stream on Saturdays and Sundays. And remember, you're awesome. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.
Raise your voice for Alterac! Just remember, never fall back. Never fall back. Hold the bridge, push the ridge. Never